Hi all, welcome back. I hope everybody is back to their seats. So we have an interesting panel discussion. Now that remote has become one of the challenge because of COVID, we have a remote session by Kolkata chapter. Uh, and just before we go ahead with the panel discussion, let me quickly thank our founding sponsor, Innovation Roots, which is a leading consulting and training service provider helping organizations. I would request everyone to keep yourself on mute. Thank you. Which is a leading consulting and training service provider helping organizations to achieve business agility and beyond. It is one of the leaders and pioneers of niche publishing services and well known for content collaboration with global thought leaders, authors, and creators. You may refer for more details on www.innovationroots.com. I would also want to thank our sponsor, Agile. Agile is a product offering from Tata Consultancy Services. It is a purely cloud-based enterprise agile planning tool along with DevOps capabilities. Enterprises can use Agile to adopt agile practices or scale across multiple Scrum and Kanban teams using enterprise scaling frameworks such as SAFe, Disciplined Agile, LESS, and more. You can also try out Agile for free up to 20 users for 30 days by signing up at agile.io, or you may reach out to us for more inquiries or exclusive product demos. Check out the Agile page on Agile Network India, which is posted on the chat box. Quick do's and don'ts to all our participants. I would request everyone to join the event 5 minutes before the start time. Use high quality speakers or headphones for better sound quality. Please keep your microphones muted and videos disabled as this may cause disturbance and bandwidth issues. At any point of time, if you have any questions, you can take it via chat box and our facilitator or moderator will help and read out few questions to the speakers or panelists as per the time availability. I would highly recommend you all to fill in the feedback form after the event, which will help us to understand more about the event management. We appreciate your cooperation, and with no further delay, let me call upon Sunanda Paul, who is the moderator of this session of the panel discussion. Over to you, Sunanda.
Thank you so much, Navina. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sunanda Pal. I have overall 20 years of experience in the industry, primarily been working in the banking and the financial sector of the IT industry. Have worked on multiple transformation journeys with the customers in different regions. Very passionate about agile journey. So I've been practicing agile, different forms of agile, and recently have been also SPC certified, which is the SAFe certification for trainers. So warm welcome to all of you. We have a very interesting topic at hand today, remote appraisals, and we have a very rich panel group out here with me. So hoping you all will enjoy the session. Let's move ahead, Navina. Yeah, Shubhashri, you want to introduce?
Yeah, hi everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Sunanda, for giving me the chance to introduce myself. I'm Shubhashri Roy. I work as a HR professional for last 10 plus years precisely, and having experience in HR operations, talent management, performance appraisal, talent requisitions, and strategic HR planning, and I am very passionate about appraisal process and interacting with human employees and creating a strategic formalities and formulas to help them, the company, and as well as the employee. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shubhashri. Rajiv, you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you, Sunanda. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rajiv. I started my career with Indian Army. Uh, I'm a computer graduate, MBA from SEM HRD. Worked in Army for 6 years. Left as major in 2007. Since then, I've worked in steel industry for 10 years in automotive Lear Corporation. Presently, for the past 3 years, I'm working with Vesuvius. I'm responsible for HR operations for India and Southeast Asia. Look forward to have a good interaction with you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Rajiv. Suchandra, you want to go next? Looks like Sujandra is not able to hear us, some technical glitch. So let me just quickly introduce her on her behalf. Hopefully, the technical glitch will be resolved soon and she would be back. So she has been with the HR industry for quite some time, and she has the expertise and experience of working with multiple HR domains. Currently, she is heading the Pioneer Group, and she has earlier been part of IT and telecom and consumable products as well. So, hoping to have a very interesting discussions. Feel free to put up your questions. I already see a couple of questions coming up on the topic here. So let me start off with the discussions. We have had almost an year and a half of pandemic situation where all of us kind of are getting used to the way of remote working, right? Now, the topic today is how do we deal with the remote appraisal, correct? While we are all working in remote conditions, there are so many challenges that the teams might be facing, both on their personal front as well as the professional front, and we are not in face-to-face connects, right? So, how do we conduct productive performance appraisals in this kind of a situation, and how do we drive the professional growth, right? So maybe I would start off with Shubhasri. Shubhasri, in your experience, do you see a difference in conducting the performance appraisals pre-pandemic and post the pandemic?
Yeah, Sunanda. So while answering this question, I would like to bring some of the pointers. Have you ever experienced such unprecedented pandemic in the last few decades? The answer is no. If this pandemic would happen pre-internet era, would this work from home new normal phases would have exist? The answer is no. From global pandemic to worldwide lockdown, from global social and economic disruptions to mass cancellation and postponement of events, the largest recessions since the Great Depression of 1930s, with the terms such as quarantine, social distancing, online learning, online work, remote appraisal, Zoom party, it seems our everyday conversation will be forever be changed by the word and the phases that we have started using nowadays. COVID-19 has no doubt impacted the performance development, performance management, of course, the performance appraisal. Coming back to the question, yes, differences are everywhere, be it in work culture, be it in time management, be it in performance, be it in economy, be it in performance management, everywhere. We all have had some experience. Well, some of our members used to work remotely and we used to manage that. But if the entire major workforce work remotely, are we losing the connection? Are we losing the direct control? Are we worrying about without close supervision, our employee might slack off and the overall productivity might suffer? Maybe yes. Performance management, physical interaction, physical presence, look and feel in the discussions, are we missing it? Yes, employees' overall health condition may impact their performance. The goal and the target setting of pre-pandemic and post-pandemic is different. Demand and supply mechanism is different, so performance is inevitable. So yes, my answer is yes, differences are there. How to address those, we will come up in the later part.
Great. Thank you so much, Shubhasri. You brought up some interesting points, right? Direct control. How do we have the direct control of the team? Whether the productivity of the team is going through a dip or not, right? So, and obviously the mental conditions of the team while they are working in this remote conditions. And how does all of these affect their performance, right? And how do we deal with this performance appraisal in a more human way? I think that that's what we would like to hear more. Meanwhile, let me move on to Rajiv. Rajiv, you want to add any points on the different kind of challenges that you might have faced with, conducting the performance appraisal with your team?
Definitely. See, um, I would say I'm coming from a manufacturing background, wherein plants are shut. I would say a few countries like India, you could get special permissions, essential services. But there have been places like Malaysia or even to an extent in Vietnam, wherein plants were not even operational for a quarter, almost a quarter. So people not coming who are supposed to work at the shop floor. Not only that, I would say it's all interlinked, operations people involved in that. So things have completely changed. Earlier, I would say we used to look after with an individual performance. Now we need to look at not only the performance of individual but of the team also. And at the same time, maybe rating during this pandemic situation when everyone's objective has changed, what we planned at start of the year that happened last year as well as this year, because November December we were thinking we are out of it and second wave catches us all of a sudden. So the methodology has changed. Maybe what we did for last year performance, because we work on calendar year Jan to December, we to an extent got rid of our rating scale. We said rather than we looking at the rating of people, let's look at how much they tried. No, it's depending on their capabilities. It's extremely difficult to be very objective when they are not even coming to office. So we suspended numerical rating. We played close attention to their I would say the work, their hard work to make it happen, because situations were very difficult, very different for individual depending on the family, depending on the location. So we made a lot of changes. I would say how we evaluated people. Like I said, be more compassionate, be more flexible. Lenient empathy definitely plays an important role. Recognize and show appreciation for employees who are engaged and working hard. It's critical for their morale and for any organization, I would say. Few things can be, I would say, we introduced tools also, I would say, wherein rather than doing an annual appraisal, we started talking to people on a quarterly basis. So yeah, these are a couple of Sunanda things which we utilized to handle people in different atmosphere.
Great points there, Rajiv. Yeah, obviously, these kind of unprecedented situation calls for, new ways of looking at things and bringing out new ways of working, new tools to appraise people, right? So you brought up some points about empathizing, right? So that's probably the uh, word that we should have mostly focused on all throughout last year, right? How do we empathize more? How do we be compassionate about the teams that we are working with, right? Because almost every one of us have gone through some kind of challenge on our personal front in the past 1 year, right? And that kind of a situation obviously has its impact on the professional front as well. So dealing with that, and like you pointed out, uh, that's an interesting thing that you brought up, that rating scales were removed, right? And I see that still not happening within the IT industry. In most of the companies, the rating scales are still there. And you coming from a manufacturing background, you bringing that up, that point is very, very interesting, right? So removing the rating scale, and how do we let go of looking at individual performances, and rather than, perform doing the appraisal of the individual performers, looking at the performance of the entire team together, and maybe evaluating the team together as one team, how they have fared, right?
True, Sunanda. See, I'm not sure what kind of gathering we have more, but when it comes to evaluating people's job performance, there's no
Hmm.
template, I would say. And it's, one size would not fit all. Even in the best of the times, no manager actually is very happy doing performance reviews. They're tense,
True.
stressful, and anxiety full atmosphere. So even we did it partial, but that has helped us. Maybe we got some learning, to address to similar situations in future.
Correct, correct. And Shubhasri, from your experience, since you come from an IT background, did you see either in your organization or outside, maybe with other organizations where you might have visibility into, did you see that, there were trends where people are moving out of the rating scale based performance appraisals?
Yeah, Sunanda, my portfolio comprises of different industries. Like I worked for IT. Basically, I worked the major part is in IT, but I have 2 3 years of experience in the manufacturing and power sector as well. So I would second Rajiv's opinion that when it comes to evaluating performance, employees' performance appraisal in during this scenario, there is no fixed template or it's not one size fits all strategy or leadership. It may varies from industry to industry. So leader goal is to make an empathetic strategic assessment which balance out both business and employee. So in various sector, various modifications and changes in the appraisal has been adopted. Some techniques and methodology for mitigating those challenges could be increase the frequency of the appraisal. So remote employee often report feeling disconnected from the business and may left wondering if their work is valued and recognized. So more frequent appraisal focused on employee development can help to keep these remote employees engaged and work effectively. If your appraisals are positive discussion focused on personal development, then employee would not mind this increased number of frequency. And the second methodology could be output matters. So how do you keep and measure the evaluate the output of the employee that matters? That might require discussion with the team members to explore their effectiveness or checking the key platform to calculate their contribution. The most important thing you need to understand their work, the things they achieve and deliver to the company. So during appraisal, try to focus on the objective and the achievement. And the last factor, which is very important, is trust. When you can't see your employee, you must able to trust them. So you need to develop a trust amongst them, and you need to trust them that they can make wise choices while they're making any of the decisions with regards to work. So at the same time, it's important to evaluate your team performance and address any issue that arises, so that appraisal process should consider the joint need of the business and your employee. By defining clear metrics to each team member, you can confidently give them the freedom to manage their work and balance out their work life effectively. That's it.
Good point, Shubhasri. In fact, yeah, it is very important that we don't wait for the annual appraisal to happen, right? So it has to be more frequent, and more so because we are working remote. It is better that we have that employee connect so that they don't feel disconnected, right? The team doesn't feel disconnected. The team gets to see the leaders, right?
Yes,
Gets to
yes,
understand the objective, the wider view of the organization, which way overall, the organization is headed. Correct?
yeah,
Those connects are very, very important. And like you mentioned that, set very clear goals, and if required, set it frequently.
yes.
Rajiv also talked about the quarterly handling of the appraisal rather than going through the annual appraisal, right? So very, very, very good points. Yeah. Let me quickly check there if Suchandra is back with us and if she is able to hear us and if we can hear her.
We
Finally,
can-
good.
this
So
is one of the primary challenges of remote working. Live example.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Good afternoon,
And
everyone.
you know what? Once you are not able to see someone, right? If it was part of your team, you would tend to think, okay, is she giving us some excuse, right?
This
Yeah,
is
So that kind of comes up in your mind.
yeah,
it's not it's trust is just not a five-letter word these days.
True,
It has
true.
it has a greater meaning associated.
Correct,
So,
correct.
good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for joining in late with my technical challenges, everything. So, this pandemic, which has hit us all and has clearly exposed the industry and the senior leaders who were thoroughly unprepared for the situation. If we talk about appraisal, remote appraisal assessment, so what basically is performance management? So let me just go back a little, one or two steps. Like appraisal, what we were discussing about, I could hear Rajiv and Shubhasri, they were all mentioning about these this assessments to be made more frequently. It's very true, and this pandemic has opened. It's rather an eye opener for all of us, because if you're evaluating someone with last year's goals and achievements which were set, so it would be fairly, I mean, truly unfair to judge someone on something which has no existence right now. Your goals, your objectives, which was aligned to your the career objectives of the organizations and the individuals, so it has got no value now. Pandemic has hit us so badly, all the industry. So the uh, guidelines or the objectives, it has to be measured on a short term basis. So the appraisers need to set those long term goals. Appraisals need to happen on a short term basis, and it would be regular interactions to review, to analyze, to highlight what are the areas they have achieved well, and what are the areas which needs to be improved upon. So these are the points. I think the faster we get into this tract of evaluation, it would be better for us, because this hybrid working environment is going to stay for longer period. So this is what I guess this should be an immediate switch over as an appraisal tool. So it should not be a annual method. It should be a quarterly, or a frequency should has to be more. It has to be more frequent. And during this pandemic, it has to be a little bit of heart to it, a little bit of empathy attached to it, and a little bit of resilience attached to it. Quantitative figures and numbers are definitely should be there, but you have to have it with a qualitative aspect to it. Okay.
Okay, yeah, good point, Suchandra. And just going back to the point that you started off with, right? You said trust is not a five-letter word, right? It has much wider sense and meaning to it. So just picking it up from there, maybe Rajiv, do you want to talk about how trust on the employees? Maybe it is both ways: trusting the supervisors, trusting the leadership from the employee standpoint, and from the leadership standpoint, trust on the employees. Has that
Sure.
gone through a paradigm shift in the last 1.5 years?
Sure, Sunanda. I'm not sure whether I should make that statement or not, but I'll just read out something which was I read in one of the articles in BBC in I think Q1 this year only, and they talk that after a year of remote work, we now trust our colleagues less than before. That was mentioned in BBC. That's what they mentioned. I would say, as a human being, there are two kinds of people. I would say, one are two personalities. I would not call two kind of people, but one are who are automatic trusters, and another one are evidence based trusters. And during this time, I would say we should be automatic trust everyone whosoever is around us until unless they prove us wrong. We have no opportunities to wait for evidences. We trying to get in evidence would definitely uh, spoil the environment, make it more stressful for people around us, especially our teams. If we are late, we think we are late for a meeting while working. We realize that it's because of the broadband. But if somebody is late 2 3 times and we are not an automatic truster, we will attribute this to their character. Many supervisors have not been trained in handling remote people, especially in manufacturing industry, and it's been because they are starting to do it. it's caused them to fall into a trap of over monitoring too, because they're used to touch feel factor without in-person interaction to bolster our professional relationship. There's more room to have negative ideas cropping up. Non-verbal communication is 70-80% of our day-to-day communication. That's not happening. It's very difficult to judge people in an environment like India, or I would say Thailand. We are shy people to come even on a camera, or our houses are not uh, in an environment enough space that we can be on camera all the time. So trust is built by spending time together, not necessarily around work related tasks. Just think about greeting somebody in elevator, post meeting small talk, catching up somebody at the pantry. And I would say there's no way endless, team meetings can replace human communication. So be automatic truster, trust your people, give them benefit of doubt, and we need to be more human, compassionate. That's what is going to help them help us as an organization also. And I think it lies responsibility with all the line managers, and human resource function should facilitate people, because this is an environment which people have not seen. They used to talk about, especially manufacturing people used to talk about work from home as a very fancy word. Once they are doing, it's very difficult for them, their family, and everyone. So go ahead, have full trust in people. I'm sure they won't let us down.
True,
Sunanda, I
true.
would
That should be
add
the
what,
mantra.
yes, I would
Go
like
ahead,
to add,
trust your people, and that they should not fail you. They will not fail you. Yeah, Suchandra,
absolutely.
go ahead. You.
I would like to add what Rajiv has already focused on. So this is something to do. I mean, the work from home is for IT industry also. It was not a continuous process, right? So for them also, this is something which is thumbed up on. It's the forced work from home, where your home is not at all a substitute for your workplace. You definitely, your subordinates might be going through some mental agony, right? He doesn't, these things are the pretty small things which cannot be captured over a Zoom call, perhaps. So you have to have what Rajiv has mentioned. You have to be resilient on that. You have to be adapted to changes, and you have to be little empathetic to your subordinates surroundings, right? They are on their toes to prove how to prove my productivity. So this again comes in the trust. So if somebody is trying to prove their productivity, probably the subordinate is on a continuous questioning mode to their seniors, which might be unnecessary, of course. Just to come into a focus, I am putting in my efforts. So this kind of behavior automatically snatches away the responsibility. If you are into a micromanagement mode, this automatically brings out the urgeness from your employees, your teammates, to get into something new, think something which is innovative, think something different, think something which can help the myself, my team members, and the organization in this hybrid work format. So therein the trust is very important.
True, true, absolutely. Completely agree with both of you on this, right? Unless we trust our teams, you cannot expect them to be working at a full potential, 100% productivity, right? So you will just have to blindly trust them, and you see the outcome flowing. Shubhashree, in your experience, I hope you have a similar kind of experience in the past 1.5 year, right? So, do you want to add any points to these on any aspects that you have seen being handled in a different way that help to build the trust?
Yeah, I will second with Suchandra and Rajiv. As I already explained, the trust. When you can't see your employee, you must able to trust them. You need to trust that they will make a wise choices and they will complete their work. So it's doesn't matter in which industry we are in, but the situation we are facing now, the unprecedented COVID-19, and it has impacted any which ways, any most of us has challenges and have lost any of this family member or close relatives or friends. So there is a mental health issues also going on uh, among the employees. So in order to address those, we need to be empathetic, we need to be approach them in a certain manner, so that employee doesn't feel the disconnect or feel they are human, they have a human attributes as well. So we need to consider those attributes. They are not a machine that the output that we will just give a work and they will just deliver the work. If we are in office, there is a connections, build up connections, which Rajiv said, like catch up in the pantry. So human connections is built up when we are in office. Maybe their home is not fully apt for the office work, so they are shy enough to not to put the camera. But if the manager consider that to be an excuse, then this is something sad. This should not be happen. So a mutual trust and respect should be there among the team members and the manager in order to perform the work. Because somebody may in a place somewhere in very remote location, somewhere in the village, and the person doesn't have a proper internet connection, his call or his video conferencing is dropping, and if the manager treats that this is the excuse, the person is not performing well, and put that person into a very low rating, or do a golden handshake, to be very precise, like job cuts and everything, then it's a sad, because maybe that person is going through a hell lot of mental health issues. He might lose one of his family members. So we need to be empathetic in every approaches we do during this time. So yeah, trust is the most important factor. We need to build it up in order to make a holistic and an effective team. Yeah.
That's right, Shubhasri. In fact, I just reminded me of one of my experience with a team member, right? So suddenly one fine morning, I get an escalation from a customer that one of my team leads, he has not been attending the calls, or he has not been that frequent in attending the calls for the past 2 days, right? So it was just one-off case. I knew immediately that something must be going wrong at his place, right? So I tried to call him up on his mobile, was able to reach him after quite a few calls. I first inquired what's going on with him, if everyone is good at his place and all. So then he got to know that he had to travel over the weekend to his parents' place. They were not well at in this kind of a situation. They were not well, so he traveled far off. It was a very remote place, and he was telling me that he had to go up the tower, a water tank, to
Mm.
be able to receive calls. Okay, so
Yeah.
he actually attended few of the customer meetings because
Mm.
there was a milestone to be reached. He took few of the calls from that tower. He took his laptop up that water tank, and he could get the connectivity on his mobile from there and could
Yes.
connect. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of
Yes, yes,
you know
everyone is struggling. Everyone has their own challenges to come up with. And so, as a HR professional, I would request our fraternity to be more acceptance, be more empathetic during these situations to the employees, so that we can build up. And there is a future, and of course, we will come up with a good relationship among employees, so that will eventually lead to success and better productivity.
True, true. So, like Rajiv was also mentioning, rather than looking at just the numbers,
Yes.
try and find out, how much effort has been put in, right? How much
Exactly.
effort that the team has put in or the individuals have put in to overcome these kind of difficulties that they have been facing, right? So
Absolutely.
let me quickly shift. There have been some interesting questions that are coming up on the chat window. I was keeping an eye on that. Few of the questions we have already answered. Maybe one question that I would like to focus on is about setting the performance goals, right? So in this kind of a situation, while we are talking about frequently conducting the appraisals or at least a feedback session per se, right? Frequently conducting those feedback sessions. Do you also recommend that the goals be set more frequently rather than on an annual basis or on half yearly basis? Raji, if
Yes,
you want to take that.
Sure. Uh, Sunanda, I would say we setting up goals every 3 months may not be feasible at all levels, especially people who are involved in the strategic decisions. But I would say I would recommend we need to be open in changing and the amendments to the objectives which have already been set at a regular interval. As of now, I would say most of the organization do mid-year evaluation or mid-year discussion and end of the year. Rather than that, there's no harm in we having those kinds of discussions every alternate month. And like I said, we have to be more cautious and having more of narrative assessment at this time. Goals will keep changing. I would say, there may be a lot of managers on the call, leaders who have spent their 60-70% of the time only in fighting COVID. I would say whether it can be getting special permission or providing required health facilities and vaccination to people and the family members. What happened? That was never in their objective. So let's be more open to amendments in the objectives at a more frequent intervals.
Absolutely. So Chandra, you were trying to say something.
yes, this is something which is very essential. Your goals might not change overnight, but you can definitely do some tricks, changing, tweakings, changing those ways. There should be some crisis planning added to it. There should be a plan B ready to it, because this pandemic was an eye opener, and this has showed every one of us how to handle challenges. Year one was a complete. We were all unprepared for it. If we talk about year two, so we have learned from the year one what are the changes which we need to make. So it's a regular review, a regular amendment of your ways to attain those goals, approaches to attain those goals and objectives. And definitely we should be having a plan B which is much more lenient, approachable, and achievable.
So one more question that I see on the chat, right? In your experience, have you
Sunanda,
come
can I add
across a...
something to this? Very
Yes,
important point
please.
which we missed.
Sure.
Uh, See, we're talking about how we make changes, and that's on the chat too. Uh, we have to be very careful and we have to tread lightly with the poor performers. These are not the normal
True.
times. If someone we are not face to face, person is not performing. When I was just mentioning about, let's tread lightly on people who are not performing very well. This is not the time to beat them up uh, or look at going in more detail for the performers. There can be various ways, and let us there's a I would say risk of all biases also. A high performer might be considering I'm still working all right, or I've been always a high performer. Situation has changed, so let us not follow the middle path, but let us balance out people who are not doing that great and people who are doing great. We need both of them and be more compassionate about it.
True. True. Important point of being aware of the biases that we bring in specifically, in this kind of a situation where you are dealing with the appraisal system, appraisal of a person, an individual, which can actually make or break the career of the person, right? So being aware of the biases and just keeping it out of your evaluation process is very, very important, right? Now, one question that I was getting to is, there is a point that has been brought up, right? Did you see there are organizations which has not gone through an appraisal process during these pandemic times? Are they at fault of not, having those appraisal discussions with the teams and not giving them a transparent view of how the team is faring, just not treading into having that discussions because the team is working remote? Did you see that those kind of situation? Shubhashri, maybe let me come to you first to see your opinion about this.
As of I know, of course, appraisal is there. Leniency or adoptions of lenient policy has been practiced, but there is no appraisal for the year. See, appraisal is not about only about this thing. The performance is, of course, is related, but if the person needs certain kind of training, if the person is performing excellently and need a promotion also, so it's a doctrine where all of this assessment happens. So it's not only that the direct during COVID how you performed. So before COVID, maybe your performance appraisal could started and you perform well, maybe first few months you performed well, and maybe you met up the target. So in that scenario, we need to understand the bell curve and the fitment of the bell curve as well, like how we like the entire, if you see the bell curve we always talk about, and most of the people think that bell curve is a monster created and imposed by the HR department, but it's not. In reality, it's the age-old Pareto's 80-20 principle was discovered by Wilfred Pareto in 1960. According to this principle, the exceptional top 20 are responsible for 80% result or outcome. This is not to say that the remaining 80% of the employee are not important. We'll come up that point later. For now, we need to remember that in any work environment, be it virtual or in office, there will be this 20% for whom the work is everything. They will produce the 80% of the result. So 80% of the organization results are guaranteed. So whether closely supervised or not, performing in a group of 100 or more tasks in a bell-shaped distribution curve where roughly 20% of the employee are the exceptional performer. They leave to work. 60% are good, solid citizens. Work is important as well as their family as well and other interests. So for them to leave and work, and the 20% is just to keep this job rolling, and their main passion could be music, sports or anything. So work is for them to pay the necessity bills, so they want to leave. So in this backdrop of COVID-19, we HR professionals are fine tuning our performance appraisal bell curve, compensation review pattern, the goal setting to reach the right balance between the head and the heart. So that's it.
Good point about the bell curve and the Pareto, right? This has been a discussion even long before pandemic. Do we still need a bell curve fitment, right? Do
Yeah.
we really need to have those percentages fixed?
Yeah.
Can we do this in a current situation, right? So, and given the pandemic situation, I guess it's kind of difficult to really fit in people into that bell curve that we have always known about, right? So in the manufacturing industry, Prajeev and Suchandra, since both of you come from a non-IT HR experience currently that you are into, right? So do you see this bell curve fitment still in place pretty much, and there are no alternate ways of appraisal system
I would
being
say
practiced?
Bell curve started with American industries, and maybe in 2009-10 recession time they realized it. That's the time when
Mhm.
Coca-Cola started saying working together, winning together. I would say most of the multinationals manufacturing have already come out of bell curve. They started talking about flat market movement, increment given equal to people for their performance. Team is rewarded, not individuals. And uh, I would say bell curve in this kind of environment is strongly discouraged, not only manufacturing by all of us. It's not the right time to do a force fitment of people wherein everyone is going through a different challenge. A salesperson who used to travel 60% of the time is not allowed to travel. The customers are shutting down. So that everything has changed. It may lead to more of unfairness with people if we try to put them in bell curve, is my opinion.
Yes,
True, true.
in the real estate industry also, which is not very different from something which is like it need to be present physically, right? So a forced treatment of bell curve is something which cannot be truly associated with any kind of industry. Maybe this year, Facebook, Netflix, they have the liberty to give a expectation EE rating to all their employees, right? So because of a forced pandemic which is induced a forced lockdown, and we are all having major time into Facebook and Netflix. But for organizations who have a dip in their business with near zero or nil, almost nil revenue generations, so this kind of liberty might not be having those, but a forced bulk treatment and asking employees to in the forced to leave kind of a role, this is something which is absolutely not desirable. Neither is what all the industry leaders are supporting this. Definitely, all performance appraisals might not be linked to a increased salary or an increment, but there are definitely other ways how you can benefit your employees. How an organization is approaching they are their behavior or their culture attitude in this pandemic is what is going to leave a mark in the employees. They are to it's most importantly retainment of those employees, which is primarily the role of all HR leaders like us. So fitting and forcefully dragging people down into the lower fitment belt is something which is not absolutely desirable.
Absolutely. So, the good point that Rajiv has also mentioned, that you provide the increment to the team rather than giving it to the people, right? So, if you are making a profitable, if you are into a profitable business, how do you share that profit within the team, right? Those are probably the innovative ways that we should see coming up. Many of the next gen companies are coming up with these kind of alternate ways and have completely shunned the appraisal process, the traditional appraisal process that we are all quite acquainted with, right? So hopefully we will see more of that. Uh, mm, Now, I will quickly look at the questions and let me see. There are some questions on the agile way of working and how appraisal gets conducted in agile way of working. So, in the manufacturing space and the real estate space, do you really work in an agile, following the agile methodology, or something like a Kanban or any other methodology? In your experience, Rajiv?
See, I would say agility is there in the organizations now. The environment is changing. So that was there earlier also. I would say a lot of Japanese industries have rather displayed by example automotive Japanese industries. So yes, that is very much in the organization, and I would say in all functions of any organization. especially in ours too. Uh, and we cannot keep appraisal aside from it. We definitely need to tweak it, and this is the right time, appropriate time to address it accordingly.
True, true. And talking about, manufacturing industries, I think Toyota is kind of a classic example which has brought about a lot of changes, bringing in the business agility mindset in the industry, which a lot of other industries also follow, right? The entire Gemba process, go and be with the team, uh, be in the field, look at the performance, sit with the team. Don't try and form your opinions from a closed managerial cubicle asset, right? So
True.
yes, definitely different manufacturing automobile industries have set examples in this area, and I'm sure we had a very engaging discussion. I was kind of getting carried away with the discussion and having so many senior panelists out here with us today, right? Very good
Absolutely.
points that have been brought out, right? So I would request the panelists to also look through the questions, and if you want to answer anything, feel free and answer in the chat window. But thank you everyone for your presence today and sharing with all of us your views from different industries, right?